Imagine a man standing at the crossroads of history, torn between his beliefs and the demands of a nation on the brink of war. James Buchanan, the 15th President of the United States, was that man, a leader whose name is often overshadowed by the more dramatic figures that came before and after him. Yet, to understand the tumultuous years leading up to the Civil War, we must delve into the life of this enigmatic statesman, a man who rose to the highest office in the land only to find himself overwhelmed by the forces he could not control. Born on April 23, 1791, in a log cabin in Cove Gap, Pennsylvania, Buchanan's early life was one of humble beginnings. The son of Irish immigrants, he was the second of 11 children, raised in a family that valued education and hard work. Buchanan's father, a successful businessman, ensured that his son received the best education possible, sending him to Dickinson College in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. There, Buchanan's sharp intellect became evident, though his rebellious nature nearly cost him his degree. After a brief suspension, he returned to complete his studies, graduating in 1809. Buchanan's early career followed a path familiar to many ambitious young men of his time. He studied law and was admitted to the bar in 1812, quickly establishing a successful legal practice in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. But Buchanan was not content to remain a lawyer. The allure of politics soon drew him in, and by 1814, at the age of just 23, he was elected to the Pennsylvania House of Representatives. His career in public service had begun, marked by a steady rise through the ranks of American politics. Throughout the 1820s and 1830s, Buchanan held various political offices, including serving as a member of the U.S. House of Representatives and as minister to Russia under President Andrew Jackson. It was during this period that Buchanan honed his diplomatic skills and developed a reputation as a shrewd, if cautious, statesman. His ability to navigate the treacherous waters of international politics would serve him well in the years to come, as the United States found itself increasingly embroiled in sectional conflict. By the 1840s, Buchanan's political star was on the rise. He served as Secretary of State under President James K. Polk, playing a key role in the expansion of U.S. territory through the annexation of Texas and the acquisition of Oregon. Buchanan's support for Manifest Destiny, the belief that the United States was destined to expand across the North American continent, aligned him with the dominant political currents of his time, though it also deepened the divisions between North and South. As the 1850s dawned, the issue of slavery became increasingly central to American politics. Buchanan, a Northern Democrat with Southern sympathies, found himself caught in the middle of the escalating tensions. His efforts to maintain peace between the North and South were often seen as appeasement by both sides. Nevertheless, in 1856, Buchanan emerged as the Democratic Party's presidential candidate, presenting himself as a moderate who could save the Union from dissolution. Buchanan won the presidency in a hotly contested election, but his victory would prove to be bittersweet. From the outset of his administration, Buchanan faced a divided nation. The Supreme Court's infamous Dred Scott decision in 1857, which denied citizenship and constitutional rights to African Americans, further inflamed the tensions between North and South. Buchanan's endorsement of the decision in the hope of resolving the slavery issue only deepened the crisis. As president, Buchanan's attempts to placate both sides often backfired. His support for the pro-slavery Lecompton Constitution in Kansas, which sought to admit Kansas as a slave state, was met with outrage in the North and only served to embolden the South. Buchanan's inability to take a firm stand alienated many within his own party and left him increasingly isolated. By the time Buchanan left office in March 1861, the nation was on the verge of civil war. 7 southern states had seceded from the Union, forming the Confederate States of America. Buchanan, who believed secession to be illegal, but also believed the federal government had no power to coerce states back into the Union, left the problem for his successor, Abraham Lincoln, to solve. James Buchanan's legacy is a complex and often controversial one. He is frequently ranked among the least effective U.S. presidents, criticized for his inability to prevent the Civil War. Yet, his failure was not one of willful neglect, but rather the result of an intractable situation for which there were no easy answers. Buchanan, a man of principle and conviction, found himself overwhelmed by the enormity of the crisis, a tragic figure caught in the currents of history. After leaving the presidency, Buchanan retired to his estate, Wheatland, in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. He spent his remaining years defending his administration and writing his memoirs, trying to explain the choices he made during his presidency. Buchanan died on June 1st, 1868, at the age of 77, a man whose life and career serve as a cautionary tale of the perils of leadership in times of national crisis. In the end, James Buchanan's story is not just the story of a president, but the story of a nation struggling to define itself in the face of its greatest challenge. His life reminds us that history is not always kind to those who are caught in its tide, and that the true measure of a leader is often found not in their triumphs, but in their trials.